Thank you for taking the time to join me today on this webinar. There's a story of a person who owned a boat and they wanted that boat to be painted. So they called up a handyman and the handyman shows up and is told about what to do, and he comes in with his pail and brushes and he starts painting the boat. And he's painting the boat, however, and he's scraping some of the wood and varnishing some of the other parts that he was supposed to do. He notices that in the bottom of the boat, on the right hand side, there seems to be some paint peeling off in an area which is unusual. So he keeps on scraping it off and he sees that there is a hole there. So he decides, you know what, let me just fix it. It's not safe and it's after all a boat. Even though I wasn't hired for that, let me just go ahead and fix it. So he fixed the hole, patched it all up and painted the boat. The boat was supposed to be painted red. And indeed, when he finished, the boat was beautiful. Walked away from the job, and a couple of days later, rushing comes in the man who owned the boat. And he is frantic. And he comes to the man, this handyman, and he gives him a big hug. And he hands him a check with 3 times the value of the painting and the bid that he had given him. You can imagine the handyman, he couldn't understand what was going on. Couldn't figure it out. He says, well, I don't understand. What's going on? Why are you so excited? Why the hug? What's going on? Surely the paint was nice, and I'm sure you enjoyed it, but it was just painting. That's all it was. He says, no, you don't understand. You have given me a new life. He says, from the boat? From painting it? He says, no, let me explain. You see, when I told you about the boat and the painting, I had forgotten to tell you that there was a hole that needed to be fixed. And so I went ahead and just hired you to paint the boat. And you painted it. When you brought it back to my home and left it there, my kids came home and saw that the boat had been delivered and it was painted, so it was okay. And they went and took it and went way out in the middle of the lake to play. When I came home that lunch and I saw that the boat wasn't there, I asked my wife, where is the boat? And she told me that the kids had taken it and had gone with it, playing in the middle of the lake. And I became absolutely frantic, worrying and did not know what to do. A short while later, the boat was coming back to shore, and the kids were waving at me and telling me of how great of a time they had had. You see, you went above and beyond your duties, and because of that, you saved the life of my children. Had I not, for whatever reason, told you this, you wouldn't have known this. But you should know that because of your action, your good deed, your thought, my children were saved today. And I thank you for that. Now this is one story. Now I would like to tell you another story. There's a very rich man, a very well-to-do man, who was so excited about the new dome that he had built in his house. And he wanted to put something of a spectacular chandelier. Shopped around, him and his wife and the family found this absolutely stunning, exotic, amazing chandelier. And they have it delivered. And sure enough, as it comes in, it's brought in with a big crane and it's installed, and they do all the kind of work preparatory to hanging the chandelier. But then they realize that when the dome, the way that this is set up, that the only way to do this was to put a huge anchor above and beyond the ceiling in that dome and attach it to a rope. And that rope would then go all the way to the other side in the attic and connect all of that. So sure enough, that's what they did. They went ahead and anchored it, and brought it up, and by the time they were finished, you could see the chandelier hanging with all above and beyond the ceiling, the anchors to brought it up, and then ropes going all the way down into the attic that were attached And one specific rope which directed all of the chandelier was wrapped around a nail in the attic. And the family was ecstatic. The people coming in and everyone seeing the chandelier, how wonderful it was. Well, several months went by, and this family is having a guest over. And this guest comes over and they tell him, we're going to put you up, but there's so many guests that we have this week. If you don't mind sleeping in the attic. It is finished, but it's somewhat disorderly. And don't worry about anything that you see there, but you can stay with us. And so this man stayed in the attic. Stays there for the evening and spends time with the family downstairs, who was so kind to house him. And the next morning, as he takes his laundry bag, he decides, where should I put my dirty laundry? So he finds a plastic bag and he decides, let me go ahead and tie it. But he can't find the rope around, so he sees that right by his bed there is a nail with a rope coming out of it. So he figured, you know what? I'll cut that little piece of rope and I use it. So he took his pocket knife out and then cut the rope so he could use it. And as soon as he did this, a smashing, loud, amazing crash noise comes out from the downstairs. The man doesn't even understand what happened, doesn't even think it's related. So he keeps on taking that rope and ties it, but at the same time he's wondering what really happened. And he rushes downstairs and he sees the family frantic. He sees the family screaming, and the chandelier was shattered in a million pieces. They immediately run upstairs to find out what had happened, and they realize that the rope had been cut. And they go to the guest and they ask him, what happened? And he explains to them, I didn't do anything. I was just tying my bag of dirty laundry. So I needed a piece of rope, so I took what was there. So you fool. What you've done is you've destroyed an exotic chandelier which cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, how are these two stories related? You can see in the story of the boat, the person was careful enough to go above and beyond the letter of the law and indeed help children being saved. Incredible. In the other story, the man didn't mean any harm, but he didn't pay attention, and the detail to him was something which of no importance to him. So what is really the importance of a detail? What is really the importance of us paying attention to the small details? It says that a child needs per day 4 hugs. A spouse needs 8 hugs. But everybody, to be happy, needs to have 12 hugs per day. Isn't that interesting? Now the reason is, why is it that the child needs only 4 hugs? Why would a child only need 4 hugs when in reality the child gets more hugs than anybody else? Well, because the child doesn't quite care whether he gets 2 hugs or more hugs than anybody else. Child is just content if he's held, or if he plays, or if he just does his own little thing. An adult, however, needs 2 times that amount, because an adult, especially a spouse, is concerned about the details. But people in general want to be loved. They want to be cared for. You can see details do matter. It is important that we pay attention to the details. Now, why is this story so prevalent and opportune for the times today? In order for us to make a better world, in order for us to deliver a kind of legacy and leave that kind of legacy to our own families, we have to ensure at all times that we pay attention to the details. It may be just a word we say, an attitude, a smile, the way we walk by. You know, it's interesting, on a regular basis in my office, I have all kinds of candies that I keep in my drawer. And I will take a few of the candies 2-3 times a week. And I'll walk around every single person in my office and just put a candy on their desk. And I tell them something specific to a duty and or a task which they've accomplished, and I thank them for it. This is for being kind. This is for being sweet. This is for being nice. This is for the project that you finished yesterday. Now, it's just a piece of candy. Now, you would ask, what would be the point of that? The point is recognition. The point is giving credit where credit is due. It is so important to pay attention to the details. We often forget about it. When you leave your home in the morning, do you hug your children? Do you tell your spouse to have a good day? Do you give them a blessing and or warm words? When you come to the office, do you tell everyone how much you appreciate them being there? When you are at the gas station and the person is right there next to you, do you say hello and do you wish them a good day as you walk away and you drive in your car with the gas that you pump? Details such as this make a person a different type of a human being. It's a person that cares, a person that really, truly is kind. Kindness is about sharing with one another. It is so important to pay attention to those details. I tell you, when I hear of an office that's doing very well, I often will speak to the doctor and or the client and figure out what makes this office so special. And invariably, I will find that the doctor or the owner will tell me, I pay attention to details. And when I hear that and I see that, then those details suddenly make a big difference. So pay attention to the details. Pay attention to every single aspect of everything that you do. Sometimes in looking at the big picture and paying attention to the vision, we forget the details. We look at the forest, we look at everything that's around it and the beautiful picture that it brings. But we forego the details. We forego the small, common, and necessary at times details that are so prevalent in our lives. I urge you to take the time and pay attention to details. Details are important. And as you can see from both stories, had the first person in the boat not paid attention to the details, not extended themselves above and beyond their call of duty, the children, God forbid, would have died. And it would have been a tragic experience. On the second story, however, the person who did not pay attention to the detail and was carefree and just worried more about himself than the detail, created chaos in that family and shattered their dream. By paying attention to the detail, you will succeed. You will bring goodness and share goodness with others. But most of all, you will leave an imprint on everything that you do. God should bless you and bless me and bless all of us for goodness, to pay attention to the details and slow down in this very active, extremely fast-pacing life that we live today. Between the technology and everything else that comes on so fast, we don't have time. And if you don't believe me, try to get on a website and see if it takes more than 5 seconds. You will see. Most people will figure out a different way. Too long. What's 5 seconds to get to a website that will take you to the other side of the world? Yet, it's already too slow for us. So I urge you to slow down. Pay attention to the details. Look at the trees. Don't forget the forest, but look at the trees and look at the details. Love your family. Love your children. Love your spouse. But most of all, love yourself in a way that is conducive to bringing godliness in everything that you do. Because every detail matters. Not just to yourself or your family or the world around us, but to God as well. And if He created them, it's because they're important. Nothing has been left without a divine reason to be here. So make the best of it. And give it its complete and adulterated, 100% genuine mission. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless you in everything that you do. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.